In addition to the syllabus, there is a tentative schedule posted on Canvas for you. It's important to know that the schedule is tentative. We set out to achieve a certain number of topics and a certain number of assignments in a particular order each term. But sometimes things don't work out that way. Sometimes we get a little ahead of ourselves or sometimes a little behind. It's important to remember that, as needed, I will update the schedule that's available to you on Canvas. So that's where you'll want to go and look to double check for dates and particularly for due dates and times. The other thing to note on our schedule is that there's a difference between the daily topics that we'll be covering and the weekly assignments that you'll be expected to complete. Let's take a look at what I mean. If you go to the syllabus and scroll down to the tentative schedule, which is down at the bottom of the document, you'll notice that there's a date column all the way to the left. Then we have a video lecture topic column, the associated chapter in the textbook, our Zoom lab topics for the week, and assignments for the week. So again, it can be a little confusing because of this date. So yes, we are a Monday, Wednesday course. And for Wednesday, May 27th, there is a video lecture topic assigned. Remember, you don't have to watch those lecture videos during our class period on Wednesday, 5/27. But it should be close to that date because there's going to be a lecture quiz associated with those videos, and there's going to be a due date and a due time for that lecture quiz. So over here, we have the lab topics that we're going to be covering on Wednesday, 5/27 in our Zoom meeting. You'll be introduced to the instructor, we'll talk a little bit about the lab, and then we'll do our first topic, which is care and use of microscopes. This is what I really want to point out though. Over here in the last column, it says assignments for the week. So these assignments are not due Wednesday, 5/27. They're going to have their own particular due dates, and you'll have to go to Canvas in the module section to find those due dates. So for next week, for our first week of class, you're going to need to complete the student survey. You're going to need to complete the lecture quiz associated with the first lecture, and you're going to have lab questions to complete. All this column does is remind you of the things that you should be completing that week. Remember that you're going to have these short lecture quizzes to complete after each lecture topic. Those are worth 5 points. And when you complete a lecture video, you're going to have your textbook available to you as a supplement. Now, I've written down for you in the schedule which chapters will be associated with each lecture. That doesn't mean that you must sit down and read that chapter in the textbook. The textbook is there as a supplement for you. You're going to be expected to know the lecture material that I cover. There's going to be additional material in the textbook that you're not going to be held responsible for. But if I go through something in the lecture and you find it confusing and you want to read a little more about it, then you should go to your textbook. If in the textbook a particular term is defined slightly differently, or if something is described a little bit differently than the way I described it in the lecture, use the lecture as what you're expected to know, particularly for definitions. If I provide you with a definition in lecture, it's a definition I want you to know. Now, With regards to the laboratory, your lab manual is really quite excellent. For each lab experiment, it provides you with background information about the topic. It provides you with the details of an experiment that you would ordinarily be conducting in the laboratory. And then it provides you with a series of questions to answer regarding that experiment. Now, since we're not actually in the laboratory this summer, I'm going to be demonstrating these techniques for you during our laboratory meetings. We will look at virtual data sets together, and we'll use those data sets as though we had generated them in the laboratory. It's important when you come to the Zoom meetings that you take detailed notes for yourself, because it's this laboratory information that you'll be expected to know on the practical exams. The last thing I want to talk about in this video is the Pathogen Project. The Pathogen Project has its own module in Canvas. So during the summer, if you have any need to pull up any of the materials related to the project, that's where you'll want to go. There's an instruction sheet provided for you that will give you clear instructions for exactly what you're going to be evaluated on as you research and learn about your pathogen and complete this writing exercise. There will be separate links in this module for submitting each of the 3 portions of the Pathogen Project. In the first portion, you're going to be looking for source materials. And once you think you have found the source materials that you need, you'll be submitting those to me so that I can make sure you're using the best possible sources. In the second part of the project, you'll be submitting essentially a rough draft of your answers to the questions. I'll evaluate that for you and return it with comments. Then, in the last portion of the project, you'll be revising your draft using my comments and submitting a final draft of your questions. Your grade will be determined by, number 1, the accuracy of the content of your answers. Did you get the questions correct? But number 2, you will also be evaluated on your writing skills. This is an opportunity for you to practice writing in a formal way, writing scientifically, using scientific language and correct sentence structure, correct spelling, correct grammar. These are things that we all need practice on. So that completes this series of videos about the introduction to our course. If you have any questions about this schedule or our syllabus, please send me a message through Canvas.